Thank you, and welcome to the Akron Public Schools Ad Hoc Communications Committee meeting for June 2nd, 2021. I'd like to thank everybody and welcome them to this meeting. And as always, I always like to start the meeting off just reading the purpose of this communications committee for everyone that may be new to the call. So, the purpose of this committee is to study the communities and constituencies that the district has received low to no connection utilizing current tools, also to identify practices and shortcomings, and concluding with a report with recommendations to the board that will include who these constituencies are, ideas on how to close any gaps, and what are the messages that may broaden our appeal that we want to get out. So thank you again. And for those new on the call, welcome. I believe this is our fourth meeting we've had since this committee has started at the request of our president. And previously we have had our family liaisons on this call representing. Also, we had Mrs. Pullman from College and Career Academies on to help us. We've had representation from the North Hill community with Dr. Nguyen, and all of them have shared the various ways they've been communicating and methods and challenges. So, and then also our very own Mark Williamson, who has shared what we are currently doing. So with that being said, I don't know if you had any opportunity to look over the previous meeting minutes, if there's any questions at all about that. Okay. And if there is none, we will actually just move on forward in our agenda. And again, we've heard a lot of the great good things that we're doing and how we're communicating in the district. And it's just important that we're not missing anyone. So the more I thought about this, we kept mentioning secretaries, who are some of my most favorite people in the district. They know everything. And I'm sure that they have opinions and thoughts just because they are that person who was just the link in most buildings to our communication efforts, be it amongst staff, be it with each other, be it with our families and communities. So we wanted to make sure that we invited representation from our secretarial staff to this meeting, just to share any insights. What are things that you see that are really good, things where you see maybe we can improve upon, and just, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So that is the purpose for the invitation to the meeting. So I do see a few new folks on the meeting. And again, welcome, and would love to hear from you. If you could just introduce yourself and what school has the pleasure of having you, and then moving forward, anything you'd like to share around the topic of communications.
Okay. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Yvette Johnson. I work at the I Promise School, and I've been with Akron Public Schools for 14 years. I worked at Schumacher for my other portion, and then the Office of School Improvement for a year, and now I'm at the I Promise School.
Hi, my name is Vicki Durr, and I've been at East High School for about 13 years, with the system over 20. And I really thank you for this opportunity, because I do think we have some shortcomings, more so this year than any other year in previous years. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. So, with that, I would just like to turn it over to you, just to feel freely to share again what you think some of our best practices are, and where you think we might be able to improve going forward. So whichever one of you would like to start, feel free.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I think the district has done a great job of trying to get out to our families, all the communication. I was very happy that the district was forward thinking about 5 or 6 years ago when they put us on the one-to-one plan with the Chromebooks. And when the pandemic hit, so many districts did not have what we had been doing already in place. So I was very proud of that moment for us, because who knew the world was going to get stopped like it did. And so I was just very, very proud of the forward thinkers at the top level. At the school level, I think communication, I've started using the email system to our families, trying to get out everything that we can get out through email. Our principal does the all call. I do find that our elderly guardians have a very difficult time with all the technology. At times also, the secretaries were not allowed to fill out certain forms. They wanted the guardian to fill them out. And our poor senior guardians of grandchildren or great-grandchildren just had a really, really tough time. So I lied and said it was them filling it out for them just because we needed them to fill out the forms. We needed them to say if their grandkids were coming back to school or staying remote. So I did it for them, even though I was instructed I shouldn't. But I felt that's what I had to do at the moment. And I apologize if that was out of order, but I did it just for the sake of our families. Our EL families, I think that department does a fantastic job trying to get out everything. We are a centralized school, but we do have a high population of EL families. And so to get an interpreter right when a family walks in is kind of difficult. We have to fill out a form and have the interpreter call the family. I know in our first year happened, Loy had a grant or something where I could call on the phone and get an interpreter right away. And so that helped. I think the grant went away. And then now we have to request an interpreter to call. And sometimes when a family's right in front of you, and because of our Family Resource Center being as large as it is, and we help all of our families, sometimes that can be a little challenging. So in a population that isn't high enough like the North Cluster, but we have, I think, 15 or 20% of our students are EL families. And because of the services we do at I Promise, it does bring a lot more families in. And so that can be a little challenging for us. So those were the top two things that I could think about, is our senior guardians, and some of the things that Loy and her department have struggled or tried. They are so fabulous at getting us the help we need, but sometimes that Johnny on the spot, we are kind of like, so.
So do you find that the senior guardians, is it just a gap in their knowledge as far as how to use technology and emails and social media?
Yes. And sometimes like they would say, well, I tried to fill out the form, but I didn't get a confirmation. I don't know if I filled out the form. It wouldn't let me do it. So I think more so the gap of technology and their era. That's the difficult part for them. And just the fact that they can, and like if they have two or three kids in 3 different schools, they have to call each school to have it done. Well, again, I kind of didn't do that. I would just do all the kids so they wouldn't have to call 3 or 4 different schools, just to make it easier for them. Just trying to take loads off of our families during this time, just making it easier. But I do think it was more so just their technology deficiencies.
So when you guys have like, I guess, parent engagement or open houses, is that something that you guys have ever provided, like maybe a workshop or something that kind of gives them a how-to?
The Family Resource Center does workshops for our families. I don't know that they've tackled technology. I think they were in the process of doing technology, and then COVID hit, so that really put a damper on a lot of that. But I think that would be a great thing to do, even across the board, is have some workshops maybe for our guardians that are senior.
Thank you.
For me at East, it was more like Vet said, the lack of education for our parents on technology. When school when school started in the fall, parents were calling, and I myself as a secretary was not trained on Google Classroom, Google Meets, the codes, and I couldn't help my parents, and my parents were frustrated. And if it wasn't for my TSS, Josh Hollahan, I'd probably still have parents on hold because we weren't trained. We weren't told anything. There is a lack of communication between school secretaries and downtown. Another instance was when testing came out. Testing sent out letters to our virtual parents. Parents were calling, never having the letter, of course, and we had no idea what was coming through. I called testing, I didn't get an answer. It's just the little things that we can help our parents with that we aren't told. Google Classroom, the schedules, when they put the flex schedule in the Google Classroom and the Play-Doh, we had no idea. Kids were being marked absent because they didn't go to their flex class because the parents didn't understand, and neither did the children. And we didn't understand until we got the phone calls from angry parents. And I don't know, I hate those phone calls. My name's been down the board enough. I don't need to not be able to help a parent. Everybody knows who I am if you've been around for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. So as the school year has progressed, Mrs. Durr, have you found that, so has there been a natural evolution of a training, or like who's been that person who's like been that go-to person? I think you mentioned Josh, a TSS. I'm not sure what TSS stands for.
I don't know. What is it? Technology something or another. He does all the Chromebook stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, there has been a progression, but unfortunately, it's me. Josh taught me how to help the parents, and I have helped parents because other people didn't have time. We were left out of the loop when this all began, and that's not right for us because we're the first person that people see. We can be your best impression and we can be your worst. And believe me, I've been on both sides. And I just think that we need to be put in that loop. We need to be told. I love when Deborah Folk's office sends us what they're saying on the dialer call. We don't get anything from any other department besides them. We need to know. And I know everybody's inundated with emails, but it seems like the important ones we're not getting. And I can't fault the principals because, gosh, they're just as busy as we are. But if it comes from a different department, I'm not sure why we're not in that loop.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments at all?
Well, I do agree with Vicki as far as it would be very beneficial when departments did put something out. Deborah Folk has started sending us copies, or maybe it comes from Mark, I'm not sure, of what's being said on the all-call system. So that has been extremely beneficial to help us help our parents instead of us like, what are you talking about? So that's appreciative that they did that. But the stickler, I think, for everybody, we didn't know the pandemic was coming, and we as secretaries, we were sent home and to do work at home. And then, downtown was answering calls, and we were making calls, and parents were like, what is going on? And we did not know Google at all, like from that standpoint. So that was very frustrating. And then when they decided to allow some kids to stay remote and some to come home, and then right before spring break, people were able to change their minds. We didn't always get that. I have a wonderful principal, so she keeps me in the loop as much as she can. And or if I get a parent call and I'm like, Brandy, did you know about this? She's like, what are they talking about? So there is some miscommunications. So if the secretary who answers the phone would get those from other departments, that would probably cut down a lot of frustrations for us.
We do have, there's internal and there's external communications, and the communications department tends to do mostly external communications. When I see something like this going on, it doesn't seem that it would be, I'm not quite sure who would be the person. The itinerant secretaries, as I understand it, do train secretaries. So perhaps that would be a way to, for Victoria, tell me if I'm wrong, because you're a veteran of this and I'm not, but it would seem that if there was someone like an itinerant secretary that could train the secretaries in these building related matters, and the TSS, the technical support specialist for each building, there should be a network there, and the principal should be involved. Has to be involved. I know they're busy, but this, as you said, Victoria and Yvette, both, this is so important. First impression, last impression. These are the things that our families remember about us. It's not the stuff at 30,000 feet, as they say. So I would think that, and we can try to figure out who should lead the charge on this, but I do think that those three entities, the principal and the TSS for that building and our itinerant secretaries, should work together to help. And if there are other secretaries out there that feel the same frustration, there should be a way for them to let us know this, because these frustrations don't always come to us. We may not know. Now, I'm not, because you're in your building and there's a certain amount of maybe isolation there, and these problems may stay there in the building and they don't get resolved. Because I hear from teachers all the time. People email me and tell me their frustrations in their buildings, and not always communication related, just everything. So there's somehow we probably should have, maybe Mary Kelly and Mark Black work to have some sort of network in every building so that this does not happen. Because Victoria, you're right. You're absolutely right about your frustration, and we just can't have that happening. And look, we struggle with technology, and we live it. We work with it every day, and we have older guardians and grandparents and people that are, and that's, we absolutely have to take care of that. We just have to.
Well, I didn't know. I would try to contact our itinerants that belong to my school. And sometimes they're like, Vet, what are you talking about? They wouldn't even know. So there is a disconnect, I think, sometimes when things go out into the public. They almost forget, like, you have secretaries that are getting ready to take this on because that's who's going to take it on from the public standpoint. And we know nothing about it. So whoever puts whatever out, and I'm sorry, I don't, other than what Vicki has mentioned, like the mystery camp, we didn't know those were coming, and we didn't know, at least for me, I didn't know. My principal might have probably knew, because I'm sure it was discussed in their principal meetings, but she doesn't know what I don't know until I tell her I didn't know nothing about the camp. So those kind of things, when anything I think that's going out to the public, a blurb or something, a letter should be sent to the secretaries. Hey, this is coming up, and your principal has the details, but this is what's going to happen. And that would, I'm sure, across the board, because secretaries, they're a secretary because they're a heart of a secretary. They want to help everyone involved and to make the school better, to make the kids better, the parents better. And so having those pieces would be so much more beneficial for us to do our job.
Yeah.
On top of the
This is
every day.
well, no, and you're the folks that you're on the ground getting everything first. You're the infantry basically, and if we don't meet our families the right way at that point, then every stop on the way after that is going to be problematic. And as much as I don't like Facebook for a lot of reasons, a lot of times when I look at it, the APS Facebook page, people put things on, sometimes indelicately, but it's real. That's the frustration that they're, that's where it's coming from.
I hate to put more work on our itinerants because unfortunately, there's a lot of schools out there that have a revolving door of secretaries. I'm not sure why. I'm one of them. My middle school cannot keep a person, but they're busy going to school, just filling in where there's no subs. And to ask them to do something else for us, I think we're taking a little much. If we could get buildings with secretaries that are going to stay, then maybe the itinerants can help us more. But we've got buildings that have not had a regular person for years. And unfortunately, my middle school side is a revolving door of secretaries. And that's not good for the community to see either, because what's that saying? Oh, another one quit? Can't handle it? It's so bad at this school? And that's my school's, my parents' opinion. How bad is it that secretary didn't last more than a couple months? And I don't like that. I mean, yes, for all of you know what happened a year or so ago, but I don't know. Secretaries need to be more involved in what's coming out of downtown. And, they can delete it, read it, take it to heart. Most of us will read it and most of us will help our parents, but we're just as frustrated, and probably more so because we're the one that gets the calls.
Thank you for that information. It's really helpful for us moving forward. I have a question for both of you. Do both of your schools use the HubSpot?
You mean
I'm not sure what it is.
you mean the hub on the like in the APS portal, the hub?
The social media?
That would be used by us, Diana. That we use that downtown in the main office here to enhance what they already do. So we use HubSpot to enhance their Facebook accounts with anything we think is worth putting on there.
Okay.
So that's what HubSpot is. Now the hub, the names are a little confusing. The hub is the name we give to our intranet, our internal internet here is the hub. And that would be a place for a lot of this. Because that is where information is exchanged between employees, among employees, newsletters, things that's actually that's a good suggestion. That would be good use of that.
Okay. I think I might have misunderstood. I recall at our last meeting, you said there were 27 schools.
We're up to close to 40 now, Diana. We're moving up there. Of the ones that are on Facebook that have active accounts that we are, and we're really using it a lot for the stay in the game for the Browns. So we're getting that out, and we're able to control the content of that on their Facebook pages. And that's working, but that's a whole other thing. But I could see why you were confused. I totally get that.
Okay.
Because the names are very close.
Okay.
I do have one question about our all-call system. Is there a way to, our kids are registered or their languages are put in, I'm talking about the REL students. Is there a way for that all-call to be translated for when those EL families get the message from the principal? Because we get calls like from our EL families that said the principal sent a message, but we don't know what it was. So I don't know if that's something futuristic, if there's a way to over.
They do. Joe Tulak is the gentleman who is in charge of the delivery, the technical part of the all calls. Whenever he does one himself, if time allows, we get them translated, because you're right, that's very important. So Loy, we work together with her and we get this stuff to, sometimes if it's an urgent, like we got to get it out right now, it won't be translated. If principals do their own, it won't be translated. And that's something that's just another really good point.
Because like for our family events, and even when we send out emails for upcoming family events, and like some of our events bring in 1,800 family members. I mean, we have huge events, and it's still this disconnect with our EL families and there's a low percentage of them that show because we haven't got it out. And Loy will have things translated, but we still don't get all those we don't get the emails and the all calls. And as we know, I know Vicki knows that we have to send out multiple things to our families for family nights. You just can't one and done it. You have to inundate them, 2 weeks ahead to let them know this is coming, this is coming. So
the emails, Yvette, are all translated or should be. If the person who's doing the emailing through school messenger understands how to do that. So if you don't purposely ask it to translate it, it probably won't.
Okay.
But Joe Tulak, we should get Joe Tulak to talk to you to just go through a tutorial, and probably with every school, to show you that it's not hard. It's very simple, but there's a box you have to click. And when you
So is that English to whatever language? Is that what that Google?
It translates into 45, I think, different languages, and I just click all. Whenever I do one, I just click all, because everything just should automatically be. You shouldn't even have a box. It should just be automatically done. And if we could do that, actually, we should. Every message should automatically just be translated without you having to click on a separate box. But I'll make a note and I'll have Joe give you a call and at your school and maybe work on that.
Like I said, I'm in the middle of the ground.
I think you froze, Yvette. Or maybe, I don't know, David, should we go through Brandy on that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have a conversation with Joe and we'll move along from there.
Thank you. This is all really good, helpful information for our report moving forward. Another question I had for the both of you, as far as communication, do you find that you've been able to utilize, say, for instance, your extracurricular advisors or coaches to help out as far as communicating with families? Have you found that to be particularly helpful in any way? When you think about just our students' involvement in extracurriculars and sports, using their coaches to kind of help out or not?
Are you talking about the building success coaches?
I'm talking about sports coaches, club advisors, band directors, any of those types of folks. Have you found them to be particularly helpful or not as a communication tool?
Not really.
Okay.
I work closely with our football coach and my student council advisor. But other than that, I don't I don't even know who some of our coaches are, to be truthful with you. If I saw them on the street, I wouldn't know who they were.
Okay. All right. I don't know, Joanne, do you have any other input or questions or comments at all?
No, oh, sorry about that. You heard three of me. My only comment is it's always a reminder of how important it is to hear everybody's voice when you're discussing needs and how to improve upon things. So as they're talking, I'm thinking a lot of, that's something that I didn't know, or that's something, and sometimes we have systems in place that just need tweaked, and we might not even realize they need that tweak until you hear that voice. So I guess my only comment is that I'm thankful for whoever had the idea to have our secretaries join us. They're an important group. I agree with you.
Okay. So I would also like to ask, I think we might have lost somebody on the call, Yvette. I was just wondering, Mrs. Durr, did you have any ideas or thoughts on who would be another perspective that might be valuable to this conversation that maybe we haven't thought about?
I haven't really thought about it, but I'll think about it and get back to you if I'm invited to the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hello, welcome back, Yvette.
Thank you. I got my wonderful TSS here trying to help me out. I don't know what happened.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think you might have fallen off the call. I had asked Mrs. Durr about has she noticed or not noticed any particular communication efforts between secretaries and or coaches or club advisors that you found to be helpful or not. And I guess I'm just thinking in terms of how passionate our sports and some of our extracurriculars are. And so are we utilizing, those adults in leadership to kind of help us? Is that something? And I know you guys don't have sports teams.
Sports, yeah, no, we're still considered middle school. We start 7th grade next year, so I don't have those issues. No.
Okay.
But our you mean our coach, like our sports coach, or our teacher coach?
I guess I'm thinking about anybody who has the captive audience of a group of students. So be it a club advisor or some type of coach, or, someone who meets with our students.
Well, I think in my school, we're very good about keeping each other informed. It's just when it comes from the outside in, that's where for me, some of the downfall is. I know that downtown does the best that they could do in getting the information out, and they're more public thinking than sometimes internal thinking. So I think if the two became one and we were informed, and then the public was informed, then that would just alleviate a lot on our end.
Okay. The other question that I asked Mrs. Durr was about, do you have any ideas on another perspective that this committee should maybe hear from? Someone that we haven't thought about. And if you don't know right now, that's okay. But
have you talked to the TSSs? I'm sorry. I looked at some of the older meetings, and I don't remember if the TSSs were included.
Nope. I don't
because those are the guys that,
and the ladies, I don't know if there's any ladies, but those people are the ones that keep our one-to-one going. And I know there's some frustrations from that camp at times with what the information they're getting, as opposed to I'll come and I'll say, oh, we're supposed to do this. The kids are supposed to do that. And the TSS is like, no, we're not. That's not how it's supposed to go. So there's a disconnect there even sometimes with information. So being that they keep our kids going on the computers, that might be a group you might want to speak to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns for our invited perspectives here? If not, thank you again, Mrs. Durr, Mrs. Johnson, for your information. Just as I thought, is very valuable things that we needed to hear. So we'll be incorporating that into our report next month. You are welcome to stay on this meeting. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. We're just going to get some updates from Mr. Williamson on anything that we need to hear since our last meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you all. And I thank you for what you're doing for the district also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Diana, we can do a quick presentation here. I'll try to keep it quick.
Okay.
And Joanne is going to get this on the screen. And I'm going to put my glasses on. We wanted to do just a sort of a brief overview of what it is we do, what we use to do it, and, you know, where we think we are really, you know, hitting the ball on right on the nose, and where we might maybe need a little work. But I'm not going to read all this. I'll go through this and I'll let you sort of see, you know, if we have this page here is about who our audiences are, all the different groups, and it's kind of everybody broken down into their different groups. We have a lot of nonprofits. We have corporate partners who follow what we do. You know, other school districts even, and private schools. You know, we provide transportation for a lot of them. So there's interaction on many different levels between Akron Public Schools, not just our parents and guardians and families and kids, but as you can see here, there are quite a few. Then there's the internal group of people that, you know, clearly I think we need to work on that. I don't know that that's necessarily in my purview, but it's something I want to think about and see if there's some way we can, after hearing what we just heard, I don't think that's a complicated thing to solve. But I just think it's got to be addressed. So, but as we move down here, Joanne put together this kind of fun little graphic. Does it have another name other than a graphic? Joanne? It's called a graphic. That's what I'll call it, because it's got cool colors in it. But it shows how, you know, district communications begins, and we use a lot of different platforms. We use social media, our own website. We have media that goes out into the community, you know, using the different vehicles, plus using the local media, plus using a radio, television, print, internet news sources we use to help us. You know, marketing is a whole nother area where we try to do as much looking into who's paying attention to us and who's not, and what do they need more of and what do they want less of. And then schools and departments is the last area. So we'll go through them real quickly. I promise this won't be boring. Well, no, I can't promise you that. I will promise you they'll go through them quickly. The first one is an overview of district communications and how that works. And so, Joanne, I'm not seeing the rest of that page. I'm only seeing the district communications. I'm only seeing the graph. I'm not seeing the language that's underneath it, but that's okay. I can.
Well, here, let me give you this.
Hold on one second, ladies and gentlemen. I can find it through another.
Yeah, if you,
Oh,
you can scroll through here.
cool. It's like a virtual PowerPoint. Okay. Yep. So if there's a way to get it on the screen, that'd be great, so people can read it. If not, then I will abridge this even more now. But
Do you want me to show all the script on there?
well, yeah, that would be good. That's all we need. Yeah, thank you. Then I can do that and this. But communications is a complicated thing, and it involves direct communication through email, maybe through text messaging, through our media partners. There's also crisis communication that we do, that we work with local emergency disaster services folks. If necessary, we work with Akron Police Department regularly, because we have officers in our schools that help us and communicate with us if there's ever a problem. We have internal communications where we email our employees and we stay in touch with them. We send them articles that appear where we may have a presence in an article in the news, so that our employees know that that's out there as well. We try to, what do we use to do this? We try to find our most interesting stories about our students, our teachers, about the curriculum that we use. We try our best to develop everything really from the ground up, so the public and the people who have the most at stake with Akron Public Schools are going to be interested. In other words, this is their investment. The folks that pay our salaries, the taxpayers in Akron, this is an investment for them, and we want them to see the return on that investment. And the best way for them to see that is showing them our students in action, our teachers doing what they do best. We try to keep the administration, sort of off to the side, because this is really about our kids and about our teachers, and about some innovative programs like our college and career academies, our international baccalaureate. We stress fine arts. We get a lot of great stories about our kids out of our fine arts department, music, and all kinds of wonderful things in theater, academics. There's really a plethora of stories and ideas that we have. And we've been fortunate that the media has been responsive and receptive to those story pitches, as we call them, when we give them ideas for stories. We find that they have been almost as interested as we have in many of these stories. A lot of the stories people remember do involve I Promise and LeBron James, because those are high profile. But we've had thousands and thousands in the 8 years that I've been here of stories about many other good things we do. Again, the positive in all this is just, again, showing the people, the stakeholders in our community, exactly where their money goes, and that we are trying our best to prepare students for the life that they're going to have after they leave here. Whether it's in the military, whether it's in a career with a job, whether it's college and then a career. We look at all these different aspects of the lives of our children in this community, and we try to prepare them as best we can for the very next thing. Let's see, what do we look at next, Joanne? I don't remember we're on here. Oh, the platforms we use. Okay, I can talk about that. It's nonstop. I can tell you that. It's a nonstop department that works 7 days a week, pretty much, and all hours whenever necessary. And we use our website, our school websites, Facebook, Twitter. Kids use Instagram. We don't use that yet. I'm not sure that we will. We use YouTube a lot. Ryan Rittenhouse does a wonderful job producing, creating videos that go out through YouTube, out to the community. A lot of what Ryan does also goes internally. We do staff spotlights. We do things about our kids and teachers and wonderful work that they're doing. He does the May Festival. He does this. There's just so many videos that Ryan creates, along with the board meetings and the committee meetings. He's working pretty much nonstop to enhance what we already do through the more traditional means. We're very lucky to have Ryan doing this, because we find that his creativity, anybody can't do what he does. I mean, his creativity is what makes this interesting and fun. And it is I think it's a labor of love for Ryan. I hope that he can hold up. This is after the graduations. He's doing all the graduations, everything we've done virtually this year, which has been a lot. Ryan's been involved in, and I just thank him publicly, because a lot of people don't know that he's the person back there making all this work. But you know, we don't get to everything we want to do, and that's probably something that happens in every organization and every company. Sometimes we get inundated. Sometimes there's a crisis. There are things that come up that we can't control. But I think all in all, we do a pretty good job of getting the stories that we have and the most urgent information that we need to get across to people out there. Okay, let's go to number 6, is it?
Number 6 is social media.
Social media. Most folks know what that is. And you know, we use Facebook, just so you know. Facebook is what most of our parents use. We've learned that. Twitter is used by a lot of corporate people in Akron and nonprofits to exchange news. We have several hundred partners now in college and career academies. And so what we do is we tag them in a lot of what we do, and we share stories back and forth. And that has a way of it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. The more we exchange these stories with one another within the community, the more exposure they have. So it may not be something a lot of our parents follow, but a lot of people that really support what we do, and a lot of these partners that David James and Ellen McWilliams have brought in to work with our students and teachers, are on Twitter. And so it's very important that we have that way of communicating with them. I told you about YouTube and how we use that. Our website, I think, does a good job. I think the problem is that websites are not as interesting to people anymore. Since the onset of Facebook, I think websites can look static and dull to some people compared to Facebook. They don't have that same living, breathing feeling that Facebook and Twitter have, or Instagram. They're still necessary. I think it's something we have to evaluate as to how much we invest in our school websites, because the schools tend to not use them as much as I'd like to see them use them. But it may be that they're just telling us something, that maybe we don't need them to be, you know, all that. Maybe they just need to be static pages with fixed information that people can go to and get, and then just go do something else and not click a lot and go really deep inside. They can get phone numbers and addresses, people's names and email addresses, but that's something we have to discuss when we have time. There's that caveat of when we have time. We'll go to number 7, which is the communicate. Is this the media outreach? Number 7? Sorry, 7. Oh, communication platforms. I just talked about some of this actually, so it's probably going to be a little bit redundant. In fact, it would be redundant. So it looks like I already did that. In the interest of time, we'll go to our 8th one. We're almost done, folks. I promise. It's pretty quick. Media and community outreach. It's earned media, or free media is as I still call it sometimes, but building relationships with reporters is not everybody's cup of tea. It's mine, and I like reporters. I like working with reporters, and we are really an open book here in this school system. We open our doors in our schools. We encourage reporters to come in and do stories. We work, you know, diligently at maintaining privacy. All the while we're doing this for our students and their families. It's very important to us. But the media outreach goes two ways. And so the more we open ourselves to the media, because we're a public organization, the more that the reporters in this community, and there aren't many left in Akron per se. We rely on Cleveland to cover a lot of things for us, and they do a pretty good job of that. But they're somewhat limited in how often they can get here. If I send them 8 stories a week, and they get 1 or 2, that would be great. In case they're watching. So it's important though, because especially seniors, as Yvette brought out, a lot of them watching television news. That's a lifeline for a lot of folks. And so it's very important for us to get our message out whenever we can on local media. That it's really important. I know a lot of people just soon tell reporters to stay away, and I've worked for other people like that before, but there's a yin and yang to this, and we have to make sure that we maintain those relationships. And I'll tell you what, when there's an emergency, and thankfully we haven't had a big one here, and probably shouldn't even mention that, but if there is one, reporters will be behind first responders. They'll be the second people to really help you out when it comes to communicating urgent information. That's when these relationships become very, very valuable. And most people don't see that because it's not something that we deal with every day. But most of these reporters will do whatever they can to help us out when we really have even with COVID, a lot of reporters were calling me regularly saying, is there anything we can do to help you get some messages out about whatever, vaccinations, things like that. And so the cooperation was really good. But again, that's a two-way street. And the real limitation, and I'll be done with this, but the real limitation on this one is that we have not many, we don't really have electronic news coverage per se here in Akron anymore. There's very little. We do have National Public Radio in Cleveland and Kent. We have WAKR in Akron, and we have the Akron Beacon Journal, which does a really good job. It would be nice if we had television. We don't, but we do. I think we do pretty well with the limitations we have. And I don't mean, and I want to make sure if anybody watching this is a reporter or knows one, me, I'm not saying anything bad about reporters or where they work. It's just the natural layout of the media landscape in Akron, Ohio today. So that's what we work with. What's the next one? Marketing is where we basically are trying to do more of this, and that's just research on our audience and our public and what people want. We do create a lot of marketing materials, printed materials for our teachers, for our programs, for our engagement center, where families come in and ask questions or they have problems they want to have solved. We have a lot of materials we can hand them. They need to be updated. We haven't done that in a while because of COVID. We also have, tchotchkes. We have giveaways that when we have training in the building and teachers and educators come in from outside, or when we have things for children, we always try to give them some cool Akron Public Schools stuff that they might use or they might like. It's just part of the whole deal of creating a welcoming environment. So we're doing quite a bit for all the new kindergarten registrants that we have coming in right now. We have things that we give them. We have like goodie bags and things like that. So that's part of our marketing budget as well. And last but not least, Joanne.
It's our marketing and communication for schools and departments.
Let's see, I have to look at this one closely. Oh yeah, I sort of just talked about this, I guess, and some of the collateral materials and the giveaways, and it's all part of, there's communication within schools, between us and schools, between schools, between us and the parents, us and the kids, us and our employees and teachers, the community, all the different pieces, parts in the community. It's just constantly turning, and the dynamics of it can change, can turn on a dime. When COVID hit, everybody here responded incredibly well. And we tend to be reactionary a little bit sometimes because we have to be in communications. We take what just happened and we process it. We try to get it out and make sense of it as quickly as we can. But we do have a lot of things going on. with STEM Expo and May Festival and all of our college and career academy work, and Marsha Pullman does marketing and communications for them. So photography is another thing that we use a lot of photography. We use our own families, our own kids. We try not to ever use stock photos. We think it's important for our brand and our identity. I didn't get to talk about branding much. I think I skipped over it or I missed it, but we try really hard to be like a corporation here and brand everything as APS with our logo. And again, a lot of that is for our community. So they know that when they drive by a school and they see our logo on it, they know they're responsible for building that school, for paying those teachers, for educating the children in there. And we can't do that without that support. But they deserve to know how well we're doing with their investment. And that is all part of branding. So there's no confusion. We're not a charter school. This is the Akron public school system. We have 47 schools, and it's a lot for people to take in. So we try to make it as easy as we can. I'm going to stop there just because we're getting close to 1 o'clock and you all probably have something else to do, and I'm always available for questions, Diana.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I think we should include that with the report that's been requested. I think it's a really great overview of everything that we do. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
That's Joanne's work.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. So I think we probably have one more meeting moving forward, and then a report has been requested. So, my thought is to kind of start a draft document on that we can add to. I think inviting TSS and Ryan to a future meeting, I think that would be a great way to kind of round out all of this. So that will be my request to Ruth, and scheduling our next meeting moving forward, and then, getting started on putting a report together, which I think should include this PowerPoint that Joanne put together so nicely. So if there are any other thoughts around that, I'd be glad to hear them. Other than that, we are free to adjourn.
Thanks, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
All righty. Bye-bye.